Thank you. Okay. Welcome, everyone. We will call to order the January 13th meeting of the Conejo Open Space Conservation Agency. Please join me in the salute to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, may we have the roll call, please?
Chair Bill De La Pena.
Present.
Director Fox.
Here.
Director Gibson.
Here.
Director Jacobson. Absent. Chairperson Skay.
Here. Under public comments, we do have a card from Mr. Frank Greenway.
Hi. Pardon me, I just caught my breath from getting in and out of the car twice since Rory and I got locked out. But on behalf of many happy hikers who are now enjoying the connector trail between Mountain Creek and the Potrero Ridge West Trail, I'd like to thank the board and Glenn Kinney and all of his crew, and Mr. Friedel and all those who helped, the Trails Commission, and most especially, well, it looked like there had to be 20 people up there just working away in the heat. One of them had to be rescued by helicopter for heat exhaustion. But everybody just loves that trail, and those I bring it up to people, and if they haven't heard about it, they try it and they make sure to come back and say, oh, that's really neat, because it goes under an oak canopy. And I don't know if a lady took pictures of it and showed them to me. I don't know how they did all that they did in the amount of time that they had. It was a phenomenal effort, so the volunteers should have thanked first. So I would thank all who were involved.
Thank you very much, Mr. Greenway. Any committee reports or announcements? Not right now. We'll go to the consent calendar. That's our minutes of September 9. Been moved. Any other discussion on the motion? Second?
Second.
Thank you. No changes or additions. All in favor of the minutes, please say aye. 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 No opposition, no abstentions. Our new item, number 6A, election of board chair and vice chair. We have nominations for chair.
Would move that we nominate Chair Skay to continue to serve as chair.
Okay. Thank you. Any other nominations? If not, we'll vote on the chair. All in favor of chair as nominated, Rory Skay, please say aye. 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 Any opposition, abstentions? Hearing none, thank you. Welcome, Mr. Jacobson. To be chair. I thank you very much, all of you, for your continued support. If at any time anyone else would like to take this on, it's fine with me. Let's go to election of vice chair. Nominations are open. Is there a nomination for vice chair? Mr. Fox?
I think it's the Park District's turn this time, isn't it? Right. Okay, I'm going to nominate Director Gibson for vice chair.
Okay. Director. Been seconded. Any other nominations for vice chair? Hearing none. All in favor of board member Joe Gibson as vice chair, please say aye. 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 No opposition, no abstentions. All right. Thank you all. This is a very exciting agenda item. This is the approval of the draft Canejo Canyons Open Space Management Plan and authorization to initiate an environmental review process. And staff, would you like to introduce this item? I must say, just to start out, this is a magnum opus. It's extremely impressive.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's great to hear you say that. And I'm glad you had a chance to look through the whole thing. Thank you, and I would like to direct the board's attention to the PowerPoint, which should be coming up momentarily. The Canejo Canyons area consists of 3,641 acres of natural open space in the northwestern corner of the city of Thousand Oaks. You can see it up there. It's outlined in black, and as you can see, it's a significant portion of the of Cosca's ring of open space around the city. This land was protected as permanent open space through a 40-year effort by local residents and government agencies. It is made up of topographically diverse landscape. Here's a nice shot from the north side of the Canejo Canyons area, showing some of the topographic diversity, and it's looking south toward Adventist Hill and Western Plateau. And some of the other landscape includes prominent ridgelines, steep-sided canyons, broad plateaus, and a variety of natural habitats. And hopefully you can see on here the topography. It's varied and shown on this exhibit and in your packet as well. The Canejo Canyons area was divided into 4 separate areas for planning purposes and reference purposes. They're called, as shown here, Canyons West, Wildwood, Arroyo Conejo, and Lindmere. This is the Canyons West area, and it is 1,430 acres in size. And I'm just going to show you a few pictures of each of the open space units. And this is from an existing bench on the east side of Canyons West Open Space Unit, and it's looking southwest towards Western Canyon. This is taken from the east side of the Canyons West Open Space Unit, looking east along an SCE easement. This is taken from the west side of the open space unit, looking northeast. This is the second area. It is the Wildwood Open Space Unit, and it's 1,765 acres in size. This picture is taken from the west side of the open space unit near Lizard Rock, looking east over the Wildwood Plateau. This is in Wildwood Park, down in the canyon along the Conejo Creek. And as you can see, we have trail users of all ages in there. This is the Arroyo Conejo Open Space Unit, and it's 314 acres in size. And this is the south branch of the Arroyo Conejo in the Barranca, which is a very steep-sided canyon and beautiful. This is a relatively new creek crossing over the Canejo Creek, which was actually built with a significant amount of help from some of our Costco volunteers. So we're very thankful for their work. This is actually an aerial view of the Barranca, which was shown a couple of pictures ago. And here's the Lindmere Open Space Unit, which is the smallest open space unit and is 132 acres in size. And this picture was taken looking west along the Lindmere Trail. And as a little bit more background, in 2005, the Costco board directed staff to initiate the preparation of a management plan for the Canejo Canyons area, because all of the potential open space areas in the northwest portion of Thousand Oaks had been preserved, and therefore the plan area boundaries would not change much. There was also, and still is, a significant amount of public interest in trail access to the Western Plateau and the adjacent canyons. In 2007, Costco received a technical assistance grant from the National Park Service's Rivers, Trails, and Conservation Assistance Program for preparation of this plan. The RTCA helped Cosca develop and implement a public engagement plan, including 2 public workshops. The first was on October 22nd, 2008, and it was held to identify the key management issues, community desires, and for residents to comment on the proposed trail alignments which were presented at that workshop. The second workshop was held on September 30th, 2009, and that workshop was to receive feedback from the public on an initial draft of the management plan. And we have a couple of pictures from the first workshop. The residents got quite involved, and there you can see former Cosca manager Mark Town in the foreground. And here's another picture from the workshop. We had really good attendance at both of the workshops. I also wanted to note that the summaries of these public workshops are included in your packets as Exhibit B on page 11. So you can see what kind of feedback we got from the participants. Staff developed a vision statement for the Canejo Canyons area based on the input received from participants at the first public workshop. That vision statement is as follows. The Canejo Canyons area is a spectacular natural treasure that should remain substantially as it is today. It serves as a key linkage in a regional network of open space for habitat, connectivity, and ecosystem health, while also providing scenic vistas and compatible multi-use trails for future generations. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about the management plan itself. The management plan is a comprehensive guide for the long-term management of resources and the provision of passive multi-use trail-based activities. The purpose of this management plan is to create an inventory of natural and cultural resources, to identify key management issues and actions needed to protect resources, to develop a public access and visitor improvement plan identifying locations of existing and proposed trails, trailheads, and visitor improvements, and to prioritize resource management actions and recreational and visitor improvements. Now I'm going to go over some of the management plan highlights, just a few things that we thought the board would be particularly interested in, but certainly there are lots of other highlights in the plan. So the area already contains 33 miles of existing trails, and actually I'd like to show you the trail map here. Hopefully you can see it there, otherwise you can also see it. It's figure 410 in your management plan document. And there are 13 miles of new trails proposed. So the green is the existing trails, and the red, orange, and yellow are the proposed trails. And the different colors, the red, orange, and yellow, are how the trail construction for the new trails is proposed to be prioritized. Improved access is provided for to the Western Plateau and the adjacent canyons through 3 proposed trailheads and 4 proposed creek crossings. And figure 411 shows the existing and proposed visitor amenities, so you can see these these proposed trailheads and creek crossings on there. And some of the other proposed new visitor amenities also shown on this exhibit include 3 picnic areas, 2 horse waterers, 3 hitching posts, a bench, and a drinking fountain. A few more management plan highlights include that the proposed new trailheads will be developed using disabled accessible trail entrance structures. An invasive plant management and removal plan will be developed. Interpretive signs will be installed and additional interpretive programs will be planned. And special protection measures will be implemented to ensure the long-term integrity of the Western Plateau as a core wildlife habitat area. The management plan contains an extensive inventory and description of resources found in the Canejo Canyons area. These include physical resources, which include topography, geology, hydrology, and drainage. Biological resources, which include vegetation types and distribution, invasive non-native plants, resident and migratory wildlife species, wildlife habitat types, special status species, habitat resources, and wildlife movement corridors. Other resources described in the plan include archaeological, historic, paleontological, visual and aesthetic, water, and recreational. And this is a vegetation distribution map. This is one of the more extensive descriptions in the management plan is about the plant communities within the Canejo Canyons. The goals, objectives, and actions discussed in the plan are based on Cosca, the city, and CRPD's existing planning and policy documents, feedback received from the public, and advice from Cosca ranger and field staff. These goals, objectives, and actions address the importance of protecting biological and cultural resources, and they aim to improve passive recreational opportunities. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about the management challenges that were identified and addressed in the plan. So Cosca's overarching goal, as you know, is to protect resources. The threats to the area's resources are identified in the plan, and actions are recommended to address these challenges. The management issues addressed include protection of native vegetation and wildlife habitat, removal or control of invasive non-native plants, protection of archaeological resources, minimization of water pollution and channel erosion, provision of adequate trailhead facilities and access to all open space units, curtailing use of Hill Canyon Road by trail users, providing permanent creek crossings as needed, providing adequate trail and interpretive information, preventing off-road vehicle access, and preventing access to the Arroyo Conejo Nature Preserve and Hill Canyon Wastewater Treatment Plant. And in conclusion, the Canejo Canyons is a visually spectacular open space area that is rich in natural resources. It has been identified as a community treasure since the mid-1970s. Approval of the draft management plan is an important step toward ensuring protection of this unique area and providing for environmentally sensitive, sustainable public access to the area. Staff recommends approval of the draft Canejo Canyons management plan and authorization for our staff to initiate the environmental review process. And I'd also like to note that should the board approve the draft, an initial study will be prepared to determine what environmental documents, if any, will be necessary. And following preparation of the appropriate environmental documents, staff will request board approval of those documents and the final management plan at a future meeting. And before we discuss or take any votes, I would just like to, actually, can we put the PowerPoint back up on the screen, please? I would just like to give a special thanks to Ann Dove, who is here in the audience. She is with the National Park Service's Rivers, Trails, and Conservation Assistance Program, who granted us the technical assistance to produce this plan. And she has just been an amazing resource and incredibly helpful, and we could not have produced this document without her. And so we wanted to thank her, and I'm sure the board wants to thank her. And I'm glad she can be here so you can all meet her and see who's been helping us so much. So thank you, Anne, and thank you to the National Park Service's Rivers, Trails, and Conservation Assistance Program.
Absolutely. We really appreciate your assistance, Anne. And Anne has worked on many, many projects in Southern California. This must have been one of the best, right? I do have, before we go to board questions or decision, we do have a speaker card, Mr. Burley.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Mark Burley. I'm a member of the Santa Rosa Valley Municipal Advisory Council. I'm also president of a trails charity called Santa Rosa Valley Trails, Inc. It's just similar to COSF, except that we actually take easements on trails that are what I would call orphan trails in our community. We insure them and we maintain them. And we also actually are maintaining one of the Cosca trails, the Lower Santa Rosa trails. First of all, I'd like to say how wonderful the input process was in creating this document. The ability for the public to come in to these meetings was extraordinary. There was a huge amount of discussions from all sorts of people geographically and with different interests, and I thought it was incredibly, of all the things I've ever been involved with, governmentally, it was probably one of the most democratic inputs that I've ever had. So I'd like to say that how much we support this document. We're very thrilled that one of the trails that we had proposed to create a loop for people from Thousand Oaks to come into Santa Rosa Valley and come back again has been included. And I hope that the board will move forward with this. I'd also like to just touch on another point, which is the Hill Canyon area is used a lot by people in our community for horses and so on. So I think it's great that that is being opened up, or being proposed to be opened up for uses that are sort of low environmental impact uses. There is a proposal to put a trailhead that is the entrance to Hill Canyon in the Santa Rosa Valley Park. That would actually be outside the Cosca area. It would be part of the county park that is over there. This is a park that we have been working on for many years, and actually was opened up last year, the grand opening, although the grand opening was only phase one. And there are discussions still continuing between the city of Thousand Oaks and the county about the next phase of the park, which is proposed to be an equestrian arena park. And some of those issues have not been resolved yet. Some of them include access to the park across Thousand Oaks property that is immediately to the east of the park. It's actually, it used to be farmland. It sort of seems to be fallow at this point. Trails have been there traditionally for many years. And one of the issues is creating trails across there of a permanent basis. And we would ask that all of these issues to do with the park get resolved at the same time as any discussions about putting in a permanent trailhead happen in Santa Rosa Park. And I'll just add that Santa Rosa Valley Trails, Inc. Would be happy to take those trails easement, which are actually outside the Cosca area, or unless Costco is interested in having them. We have a trail plan for the whole of the Santa Rosa Valley, which is in the process of being approved by the Board of Supervisors, going through County Board of Supervisors. So we would be happy, and maybe this is something I should bring to the city or write to Mr. Mitnick or something, a little bit more detail about it. But there's a couple of members of the Thousand Oaks Council here tonight. I thought I'd just bring it up. We would be happy to take those trail easements and insure them and maintain them, because I know that that was part of the reason we created this charity, was to take on those responsibilities. So if you have any questions, otherwise we'll move on. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Burley. And we do have a statement card from Ginny Bowers, also approving or requesting that we approve the plan, and she does note that we will need future trail workday opportunities, and this plan does outline some, some future opportunities. Thank you. So if we have no other public cards, board members, what's your pleasure? Board Member Bill de la Pena.
Thank you. I also wanted to thank staff for a wonderful job done on this management plan. It is quite extensive and detailed, and it sounds that the idea of having true community involvement was quite a success. And I would like to know how many, congratulations for actually making it possible. How many residents actually attended these meetings? I was trying to look at it, look for the number in the report, but I couldn't find it.
I think it was about 60 total, so about 30 at each, approximately.
Okay. I am very happy with the progress that this project has made and other Cosca projects over the last couple of years with all of the community involvement. I think the more there is, the better. And it really does make for a democratic process, as Mr. Burley said.
I'd also just like to mention that we received a lot of public comments during the comment period, so I didn't count them, but maybe from 20 residents or so. With feedback after they had reviewed the draft plan.
And this draft, is it going to be, once it's finalized, is it going to be edited in terms of any sort of grammatical errors or typos, or is this going to be it?
We can edit it,
okay.
Yes, if you found any. Please let us know.
And I, not being a biologist or anything like that, I'm just wondering what the word intergrades mean when scrub intergrades. What does that mean? On page 4 to 7.
It means when two plant communities actually sort of start growing together. So, yeah.
Very good. Okay, and there was a new word for me, at least.
There's a new word for me, too, actually.
To integrate. Okay, very good. And then the other question is, based on or following up on the comments by Mr. Burley regarding making sure that there is a trailhead when all of this is finalized, what are the avenues that need to be taken, and is it a possibility?
Basically, we need to meet with the county and agree to where we can put a kiosk, and if we can share the use of parking out there. And then we also would need to build a bridge in that vicinity, which would be on our property, I believe, and find the funding for that. So yeah, that would be on our property, sorry. And that will actually be the sort of the main impediment to moving that process along. But the trailhead, essentially, it will just really be for Cosca. It would just be a kiosk and parking and just information. It wouldn't actually involve us constructing anything other than the bridge.
Okay, so what Mr. Burley proposed this evening will be separate or has to be separate, or can it be combined?
I don't know if it can be combined because I'm not sure what the county's, I think it'll have to be separate because I don't know what the county's timeline is, and this would be with Cosca, actually. It wouldn't be with the city, so it would be, I think, a Cosca agreement with the county just for the shared use. So it would be separate, but that will actually be, I think, pretty soon, as long as the county is agreeable to it, which the county staff is agreeable to it.
Okay. And Ms. Ford?
If I could just add to that information. One of the key issues that we had identified in that area in Hill Canyon was that there's a current problem with trail users currently using the paved access road to the treatment plant as a trail. And one of the goals that we had in the management plan was to solve that problem. The problem can be solved by creating an official trailhead with a well-constructed official trail leading parallel to the creek, but on the other side of the creek from the road, and then proper signage and fencing placed to direct people who come into that area away from the paved road and onto the official trail, which is the shared interest of Cosca and the city to accomplish that. In order to encourage people to use the trail instead of the paved road, we do realize that we would need to have a bridge constructed, which is in the plan, a kiosk and signage. The problem being that the city's property ends immediately at the edge of the stream bank. And so we had identified that in order to provide proper signage, we may need to place the sign on the county's property. And we did meet last year with county staff and the planning agency as well as the Parks Department, and had initial discussions with them, which we will pursue further after the approval of the plan.
Thank you very much for that detailed answer. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Board Member Fox.
I was just reading through, looks like the minutes and the notes of some of the breakout groups, and one of the items that came up was the potential areas of conflict. I'm not quite sure how this was framed or what that looks like, but one of the things that was identified was camping and kids on the Western Plateau and what facilities would be needed. They talk about increased fire risks. They also mention if there's the reintroduction of some type of recreational fishing type opportunity as well. So I'm just curious from staff, are these viewed as negatives?
Staff, after kind of analyzing the resources out in the Western Plateau, determined that it wasn't, it wouldn't protect the resources enough to allow additional sort of recreational uses out there besides passive recreation and trail use. So those aren't viewed as negative. They're just not, we just didn't think they were appropriate for the Western Plateau. However, there is camping in Wildwood Park, so we sort of hoped that would fulfill whoever suggested that's need for kind of camping in that area. So we would like.
Maybe I'm going to demonstrate my ignorance here. Is there overnight camping in Wildwood Park?
There is. There's organized camping nights through CRPD.
Yeah, maybe because I know there's a sign there. I've run through there many times. I know they have fire pits. They have picnic tables. They have all the remnants of a campsite, except there's a sign that says you better get out after dark or we're going to close the gate.
The kind of camping that's allowed is only programmed with CRPD, so you actually have to sign up and be part of a program for camping.
Right.
So
okay.
it isn't get a permit and you yourself go with a tent, but
okay.
you have to be part of a program with CRPD to use the Wildwood camping.
All right, and I'm just curious. I would like to see us. We have, in my view, many thousands of acres of what I would call passive open space, trail use. Horseback riding, maybe that would be considered active. But it seems to me that if there was an area where you could have some, overnight camping, I'm not talking about Lake Cachuma, that type of intense use, but I think that's something to explore. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But it would seem to me that would be, that might be something that would maybe attractive to a number of residents in the community. And I know there was some talk about some type of fishing opportunity as well, and I don't really know environmentally what that looks like, and I would defer to the experts on that, but I've long thought if there's some mechanism by which we can maybe look at that type of use, that might be attractive.
There were a couple of other reasons why we determined that camping wasn't appropriate on the Western Plateau. One is that it's a wildlife corridor. It's identified in the
missing linkages.
Yes, missing linkages study. Thank you, Chair Skay. And it's sort of the biggest contiguous area of undisturbed open space for wildlife to sort of migrate through and live in. Also, a big concern of ours would be staff time required to maintain a campground, even if it was like a hike-in campground. We would have to either build a bathroom or have some sort of self-cleaning bathroom. And, that would have to be patrolled and maintained. And we honestly just do not have the staff levels to do that. But it was more of a resource protection decision, I would say. And then just one other thing is the fishing idea. I'm not really sure I guess they were talking about Conejo Creek fishing. There's no fishing in Western Plateau.
No,
so I'm not.
It was somewhere else in the report.
Yeah, that was also determined to not be appropriate in terms of resource protection. And I think Kristen Ford has a comment.
Yeah, I just wanted to add one comment that the reason why camping was specifically discussed at the first workshop was because staff had prepared a list of questions to prompt the public. We really wanted to get the citizens thinking about 20 years from now, what do you want to see happening in the Canejo Canyons area? What degree of use do the citizens want to see? And so we asked them questions about, do you want more trails? We prompted them. And one of the things we prompted them on was, would you like to see a camping opportunities, additional camping beyond those currently offered in Wildwood? And overwhelmingly, the people, and this was discussed at each of the tables at our first public workshop, we resoundingly heard that people said they would like to have the Canejo Canyons, especially the Western Plateau area, stay as a less heavily used than Wildwood Park. That we have Wildwood Park, and Wildwood Park is great, but that given that the Western Plateau is currently remote and not heavily used, that they thought that was a value that should be preserved.
Any other comments? Director Bildel, opinion.
Just a question. So the Western Plateau, I'm looking to see if, I'm looking at special status plants, and it seems that that area seems to have a lot of special status plants, correct?
Right.
How many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10? So, so that was one of the reasons why then you wanted to. I think it has the most special status plants of any of the areas, perhaps. Is that the case?
Could be. It's because it's the thin volcanic soils, and it's sort of a unique landform. There's Lyons pentakita and the Dudleys and a lot of other things that kind of spread around. Although there are the special status plants on the walls of Wildwood Canyon and the main Arroyo also.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments from this end? Yes, Director Jacobson.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the, I guess, concern about camping and what have you. I think, in my mind, one of the obvious benefits that the community receives from the Conejo Recreation and Park District, in addition to the involvement with the city on Cosca, are the variety of programs that meet the needs of community members, specifically a number of people who are walkers and campers and what have you. In all cases, camping programs, when authorized by, are usually conducted by the Conejo Recreation and Park District. And one of my earlier questions of our general manager was the degree to which this might infringe on our ability to meet the needs of public that would be addressed in the future, if not now. So I would not like to see it interpreted that this would be a total exclusion of any camping facility, providing it was operated in a manner consistent with the preservation of the open space and the enhancement of recreational opportunities for the residents of the Conejo Valley. So I am taking a bit of, expressing a bit of concern that we don't overprotect an area and thereby inhibit the availability or enjoyment of those areas by people who may not be trail walkers. We certainly see a great change in the recreational opportunities within this community, as you mentioned, possibility in 20 years from now, but we saw that over the last 30, maybe 35 years. As the community grows, we saw that our first request for a soccer field was for one soccer field to meet the needs of fewer than 100 soccer players. Now we have thousands that are playing on our fields, and I think we can't put into perspective what the future needs need to be. We're not clairvoyant, and I would not like to see this so cast in concrete that it did not provide the opportunity for those residents who look on open space for their enjoyment in a different manner to be able to use that, providing it is managed properly by the Conejo Recreation and Park District through the joint work with Cosca. That's the first thing. Go ahead.
Well, I certainly understand your concerns. The management plan was drafted to somewhat be a living document. It is intended to guide the use of this area for a certain amount of time. Let's say 10 or 20 years, I think, is what we were thinking for the time horizon for the improvements that we identified in the plan. So theoretically, the plan would govern the next 10 or 20 years in terms of what is implemented, in additional visitor amenities and improvements in the Canejo Canyons area. We did request a lot of public input in terms of what the public wanted to see, and we did not hear from the public that they were interested in additional camping facilities. If in the future we do hear from the public that that's a need that needs to be filled, certainly the intention is that this document could be revised, and the plan can be updated as the needs do change.
I see. Well, please interpret that this is not a encouragement of camping as some people would envision it, with vehicular or other access and accommodations, but rather of those that would parallel the existing successful programs of the Conejo Recreation and Park District in Wildwood, and which may also, in a later item on our agenda, be an item for consideration for Potrero Park. My second question had to do with, upon approval of these plans, will you be preparing a schedule and a estimated cost for the improvements that are to be made, and the source for such expenditures if they are available at that time?
We will be preparing a schedule and probably cost estimates for the initial projects. We won't do cost estimates for the whole thing, and they'll be scheduled basically as the completion of those projects, as they're scheduled, will be paid for through mostly the capital improvement projects budget that Cosca has. So the funds will be limited, and hopefully a lot of the trail work can be accomplished through volunteer projects and through Trail Work Day, which is organized by the Conejo Open Space Trails Advisory Committee. So yes, there will be a schedule.
I know bridges are expensive. We've constructed them on our property, and if there are alternatives, we hopefully will be able to evaluate those.
Right. We're actually hoping to work cooperatively with the City of Thousand Oaks on one of the bridges. There are two sort of larger bridges that are proposed, and hopefully work with either a nonprofit or other public agencies on the other bridge. So we're hoping that we don't have to cover the entire cost of the bridges as Cosca, since we have limited funds, as you know. So hopefully, yeah, we can figure out a way to pay for a lot of those costs. Mm-hmm.
Other questions or comments? Director Gibson.
Well, I want to applaud staff. I think they've done a nice job. I did have the ability to stop in on the second workshop, and there was a good room of people that were anxious to, participate on this. Probably Director Fox has a little more history, but I remember 10 years ago, we were considering something else for some of these canyons. I think this is a lot better than a golf course. So, I'm not going to get into the camping thing, but I will echo sort of what Director Jacobson and Mr. Fox both said, and it's along the lines that, we need to think a little bit more outside the box than just trails. And that goes for all of our open space. Not that we need to open all of our open space up, but there are other things besides just trail users. I'm a little concerned as I look at the plan on accessibility. I know there are portions of this open space that have got extreme accessibility issues. I recall when we were looking at a golf course there, we were talking about some sort of tram or whatever to get golfers up and down from the top of the canyon to the bottom. I mean, it was something very ludicrous, but I would encourage staff to not only look at issues such as steep slopes, But for those of us that are becoming more and more physically impaired and having difficulty with access, to look at true accessibility issues. And I was kind of disappointed not to see that addressed at all in the plan. At least I couldn't find it. So
it actually is addressed a little bit, and I'd like to direct your attention to that section. Let me just find it really quickly, because we are also very concerned about accessibility. And let's see. On page 5-10, under Trails and Emergency Access Action Items, it says all new trailheads developed in the plan area, including the Santa Rosa trailhead, will have universally accessible trail entrance structures, and when and where feasible, the existing stepovers will be replaced with accessible trail entrance structures as budget and staff resources allow, of course. And then also we are hoping to design the planned trail on the west side of the Conejo Creek, which is parallel to Hill Canyon Road, to be accessible to people who use assistive devices. So
and again, I see that in there, but I kind of think, and I'll be fairly blunt, that I think that's very minimal.
Okay.
And again, I think accessibility, I'm not to the point, but Jim knows that I have difficulty walking. Fortunately, but probably soon I'll be doing something else. But we need to think accessibility, especially as our population continues to age. We tend to have a population that of seniors that are active, but a number of those seniors, well, it's great to go to the senior center. You would like to have the ability to use the open space. They pay as many taxes as the next guy. So I would like to see staff look at that. Look at it beyond just accessibility at trailheads, look at it as opposed to a token trail, to have a more universal approach to that. But with that, I think, with the assistance of the National Park Service, I'm very appreciative for what they've done. And perhaps when it comes to camping, we can learn some things from them. And I mean, I've gone camping on Anacapa, and you bring everything in and you bring everything out. And it's very, very low or no impact camping. And there are ways to do those kind of programs. So, but congratulations to staff.
Thank you.
And I'll just chime in again. I'm really appreciative of the tremendous effort that our staff, with the assistance of Ms. Dove, have put into this. I mean, you ladies have done a remarkable job, and it's long in the making, and we've long been needing to have a really comprehensive and look at the Canejo Canyons, and I know that the goal is to try and have a management plan for all of our open space areas, but it's a big time commitment to do that. So I think this is a wonderful start, absolutely wonderful. I certainly have a personal interest, since I did my master's work on the Canejo Canyons long ago when the city was doing the Canejo Canyon study, and then that was actually after the Conejo Future Foundation was formed, and Dr. Raymond Olson and some other community members, Frances Prince and her husband Harvey Prince, and former CRPD Director Doris Granholm and others, worked really hard to, everyone was concerned because the canyons were kind of a dumping ground. It really was a no man's land. The city only owned the wastewater treatment plant and the sewer lines down to it. MGM and then Chappelle Industries owned the upper part, and there were lots of other private ownerships, and it was kind of up for grabs. Lots of deleterious uses because no one really was paying attention to it, and so the city really took the bull by the horns in when they commissioned the Canejo Canyons, the Arroyo Conejo study back in '76, I think it was. This is a great segue. Fast forward 30 years to what really can be done, and it's quite remarkable that this community has had such an interest in preserving that area. I mean, just think of Western Plateau. I mean, that was in the general plan for, what was it, 150 or 200 houses or something. Yeah. And now it's permanent open space forever, so I'm very, very pleased. Do we have a motion or
Move to approve staff recommendation.
okay,
I'll second that.
and seconded by Director Gibson. Any other discussion on the motion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposition, any abstentions? Passes unanimously. Let us go to our financial report for fiscal year 2008-2009. Go ahead, Kristen.
If I can direct your attention to the screen for a PowerPoint presentation, please. Costco's annual financial report for fiscal year 08-09 is included in your packet. I've just highlighted a couple of details here. If you're interested in reading it more, you can do that for yourselves. The financial report was prepared by city finance staff and was audited by Lance, Saul, and Lunghard, LLP. The Costco's assets exceeded liabilities in FY 08-09 by $65.9 million. And of course, most of our assets are in real property, in the open space that we own and manage. Costco's net assets increased by $0.1 million in the last fiscal year. And the auditors didn't identify any deficiencies in our internal control over financial reporting, which is always a positive finding. So if the board has any questions, I'm available to answer them.
Thank you very much. Thank you. We received and filed the annual financial report. Let's go to the Rancho Potrero specific plan.
I wanted to give the board a brief update on the Rancho Potrero specific plan and let you know that it's moving forward. The draft MND for the specific plan was released for public review on December 4th, 2009, and the board members should all have received a copy of that draft MND. Included in the draft MND was a copy of the draft specific plan itself, and that specific plan was based directly on the Rancho Potrero conceptual plan, which, as the board will remember, was approved by the Cosca board, the CRPD board, and the City Council at a joint meeting on January 8th, 2008. The public comment period for the draft MND has now ended, and the Planning Commission is tentatively scheduled to review the draft MND and the draft specific plan in March, and the City Council will consider the MND and the specific plan in April. So if the City Council approves the MND and the draft specific plan, the City and CRPD will then pursue annexation of the Rancho Potrero property. And eventually, after all the processes are complete, the property will be transferred to Cosca and the recreational improvements can begin.
Very good. Questions of Ms. Ford on this item? No? Okay, thank you. 2010 Open Space Appreciation Hikes. Ms. Austin?
Thank you, Chair Skay. I'd like to direct the board's attention to the monitor for a brief PowerPoint. Included in your packet is the schedule for the 2010 Open Space Appreciation Hikes. These are monthly hikes that are sponsored by CRPD. They're free to the public, and they provide an excellent opportunity to explore Costco's open space trail system. They're led by experienced hikers, and one of them is a Costco member. And the other one is an extremely active Costco volunteer, an honorary Costco member, I guess. And there are upcoming hikes, and they're shown here. One is actually this Saturday, January 16th, from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m., and it is in the Dos Vientos and Potrero Ridge open space areas. It's an 8-mile hike and is moderately strenuous. The hike in February is on the 20th, from 9 a.m. to 11:30 a.m., and it is from Potrero Road to Angel Vista, 5-mile hike. And for more details on these hikes and the rest of the hikes scheduled for 2010, the board and the public can visit the outings section on the cosf.org website. That's the Conejo Open Space Foundation website, or can visit the Conejo Recreation and Park District website at crpd.org. And there's lots more information on both of those websites about the hikes. So thank you.
Thank you. It's an ambitious schedule, and it's great Cosca working on that. I think that's wonderful to have an organized hike that just to highlight our open space too. Do we have any board member comments? Hearing none. I think we are. Let's see. We need a closed session.
Correct.
So we will. Would you like to read the item, Mr. Hare?
Thank you, Chair Skay. This requested closed session is made pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.8. It's a conference with real property negotiators. The property is assessor parcel numbers 6730310-120, 6730390-030, 6730390-090, 6730390-100, 6730400-080, 6730410-090. The agency negotiators are Kristen Ford, Cosca Manager, Shelley Austin, Cosca Associate Planner, and Patrick Heher, Assistant Cosca Attorney. Negotiating parties are Eunice Kowalski, Patrick Urban, Michael Urban. Under negotiation are price and terms, and we can adjourn after closed session. We do not need a report back.
All right, very good. Our next meeting will be March 10th, 2010, and the board will be repaired to the adjoining room. Thank you very much, everyone.